Hey everybody, in this video we're going to be talking about building your golf swing again from scratch all the way to a finished product. This is going to be step 2 and we're going to start talking about the takeaway. All right everybody, Scott Ogan coming at you here. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you like this series. Had a lot of good feedback via messages on the first series, so glad you liked it. And again, we want to help you more throughout the winter, so let us know how we can help you. We're going to have another series coming out talking about game planning throughout the winter. What should you do using some of the tools I use with my students to help them shoot lower scores. So we'll go through that and get you ready to roll. So we are going to talk about today building your swing. So we want to talk about the takeaway. Before we get there, make sure you click that subscribe button so you don't miss the rest, because we're going to be building on top of previous videos. So you want to make sure you saw our first video about impact and starting to learn what that is. And you don't want to miss the rest of the videos as you're going through, because you're going to have incomplete information as you go. So today we start talking about the takeaway. Okay, so what's defined what the takeaway is first. So the takeaway I would call anywhere from the start of the swing to the golf club gets parallel with the ground. You might hear in golf swing terms, that's P2, position 2. Position 1 is the setup. 2 would be here, lead arm parallel 3, all that. So all you got to know is getting the club parallel to the ground at this point in your swing, okay? So let's talk about what we're looking for. So if I'm looking to perfect my takeaway, okay, what's some of the things that we need to look for? Well, your backswing is meant to set up your downswing and set up your impact. So if you're looking at our impact is to get into the ball, have this trail arm a little bit bent. What you're going to see is this trail wrist is a little bit bent back as well. We haven't thrown away that angle yet. So that's where we're going to go. We have to think about and have a plan for our swing that, hey, I can generate some of these things in my backswing, or how am I going to use my backswing to help generate those positions? So there's kind of 2 backswings that I think you can go with that I like to see where you will be in okay shape going through the rest of your swing. It's just going to depend on what you go with as you continue through building your swing. So let's talk about the first one. I'd say this is a more conventional one. You might have heard this is like a one-piece takeaway. What we'll see is you got your grip, you got your setup, and what we'll see is my shoulders, my arms, the body has taken the golf club back, okay? And the club is outside those hands when you get to about halfway back. When we're looking back here, you're gonna see the club is outside those hands. Why is that a good position? Well, when I transition, I can let that wrist bend, and now I'm going to have the club transitioning really nicely into the ball. So what we'll see on that position is your right wrist and your wrist in general are very passive. So if you're going to do that, you're going to have to realize, all right, I'm going to have to transition and get the club to get into a good position. I like that because it's more athletic. It's similar to throwing a ball. I wouldn't necessarily bring a ball back and throw it. It's a little bit awkward doing it that way. So I like being able to bring it and then kind of letting the club, that's how you get that lag feel, creating some of that lag and letting the club go. So that's my preferred way to see the club go back. So again, I like to see shoulders, hands, arms all work together, and the wrists aren't really overactive getting the club inside. Now it's not a deal breaker, but it is something I like to see. I think it works out better. Now, let's point out a couple key positions as you do this. One, notice my lower body is also gone. I'm not keeping my lower body still. I'm using my lower body. That's part of going back. The other thing is, watch the club face. When I get back here, the club face needs to get to a square position, okay? If you start fanning the face open, that's usually when you see the club face behind you anyway, but if you start fanning it open, you've got some work to do on the way down and making it harder than it should be. The last thing that we're going to talk about in a takeaway, if you're doing this style of takeaway, we do need to see our body rotate at an angle where our shoulders are still pointed down somewhere close to the ball. You don't want to do a one-piece takeaway and get flat. You're going to run into issues in your downswing. So you want to make sure you're getting to a position where you feel like you're still angled towards the ball a little bit. Okay, so those are some of the key areas I would look for. Now that's my preferred takeaway. So let's go over it again one more time. You take your grip and your setup, shoulders, arms, hands very passive, but all working together along with your body, right? To bring this club back, you're gonna typically see the club head stay outside of the hands while your hands work in closer to your body. That's the one I like because when I transition, my wrist can go into this position and get into an extension, and then I can go. And I'm gonna have a lot more power, a lot easier. So that's one way you can do it. Now, there are ways you can do this. I can make that same takeaway, and if the club drifts a little inside, that's okay. You know, there's a little bit of room there where the club can go. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now, there's another way you can take this back too. I do see this. It's not my favorite because sometimes it can limit options, or we have to work on some other things. But what I will see is people immediately flex this wrist, or extend this wrist, I should say, and they just get it bent, and then they just turn their body and go. You can do that. You just have to be very, very passive in your arms. Now, you can try both. The thing I run into with it is, for me, I think you need more body speed to make some power, make some distance, to kind of stretch everything out. If you're somebody like me, that's not ideal. I'm not gonna move my body very fast, not very flexible. So that wouldn't help me. So it's one of those things, you can do it, you just have to be very passive. A lot of times why we don't do it this way either is I see a lot of people get active on the way down and throw the club out. It's hard sometimes for them to hang, to hold on to that wrist angle as they're going. So again, you can do it that way, early set, bring it back. Again, you just gotta be really passive. And I think what I run into when we do that is I run into issues with feel. So they might hit the ball really good on the full swing, but in other parts of the game, we run into issues with getting height on the ball, being able to have feel for finesse shots, things like that. So that's just a whole total picture that I see when we start talking about takeaways. But it is an option, okay? It is an option for sure. There are successful people doing it. So we start looking at the takeaway, okay? Again, there's a couple of things there. Hopefully you could start building your golf swing. Again, hopefully what we're trying to relate this all back to is, how is impact gonna come in play, right? That's the whole point of the game. You gotta hit the ball solid, and you gotta hit impact the way you want to. So if you're gonna do that, you've got to generate a backswing, or use your backswing to generate the positions that you're looking for. So connecting the dots from the finish all the way back to the start, I think can sometimes help you realize what you should and shouldn't do. And you'll realize there's also a lot of freedom. That's why you have a variety of different swings that can be successful. So don't worry if it's, oh, is that right? A lot of this you'll develop and get better at as you continue on. So don't have to worry too much about it. It's just a matter of, all right, can you start identifying what to look for, and you'll get a real good feel, and you'll put your own personal fingerprint on this swing, so it'll become your own as well, within the framework that we're laying out for you. So hopefully this helps you. Again, leave us comments below, questions, things you've heard. There's a ton of myths out there about the golf swing. Love just to break those down and help you figure out what are good ones and what are bad ones. So make sure you leave those comments below. And again, we'll continue on in the next video. We're gonna take it all the way to the top of the swing and start with the transition, which is a really critical part of the golf swing. So click that subscribe button, don't miss out on it, and we'll see you in the next video.